Marshal Abubakar, along with a crowd of supporters chanting anti-government and anti-Kaude Egbetukun songs. His visibly packed travel bag contained personal essentials including toothpaste, toothbrush, soap, clothing, books and other items, a symbolic gesture suggesting he was prepared for possible detention.
A fresh leadership tussle has erupted in the African Democratic Congress as the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC has declined to recognize the party's newly formed caretaker committee led by former Senate President David Mark. Despite a resolution by the party's National Executive Committee to dissolve the existing National Working Committee and install an interim leadership, INEC has maintained that the party's old executive remains in charge. Checks on INEC's official portal on Tuesday revealed that Ralph Okenwosu is still listed as the ADC's national chairman alongside Saeed Baba Abdullahi, national secretary, Calvin Alagoa, national treasurer, Ifenyinwa Intima, national financial secretary, and Ujunwa L. Onwasoeze, National Legal Advisor. The ADC's National Secretariat is also retained at number 1 Capital Plaza, Nyanyakuru Road, Abuja, with its official contact number. The leadership crisis deepened in July 2025 when the ADC announced a caretaker committee following the resignation of Umusu and his executive members. However, INEC is yet to update its records to reflect the leadership change. Responding, however, to inquiries by journalists, the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman, Rotimi Lawrence, stated, "The old ESCO is still in charge as of today." End quote. Meanwhile, PeterObi, the media aide to ex-Vice President Atiku Abubakar, today disclosed that delegates of the African Democratic Congress will decide the party's presidential candidate at the right time. PeterObi made the remark while noting that there is nothing wrong with all the top ADC politicians wanting to be president. Posting on his Facebook profile, Ibe said the coalition is angry with the failure of President Bola Tinubu's administration. According to Ibe, the coalition is angry that Tinubu's administration has made a mess of Nigeria within 2 years of being in power. Meanwhile, the members of the Julius Aburi-led faction of the Labour Party protested today at the headquarters of the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC in Abuja. The protesters, who went to the INEC office in company with some civil society organizations, opposed a recent decision of the electoral umpire to exclude the names of Labour Party candidates from the forthcoming Federal Capital Territory Area Council elections and by-elections fixed for about 12 states across the country on August 16. They danced and sang in front of the office, as also displayed placards with various inscriptions. The protesters stormed the INEC office barely 24 hours after another faction of the Labour Party, led by Senator Nanadi Usman, dissociated itself from the protest, saying they were unknown to the party. The spokesman to Senator Usman, Mr. Ken Asogwa, in a statement had alerted INEC and security agencies to the protest, saying that the planners did not have the backing of the party. He disclosed categorically that the protest is not sanctioned by the Labour Party and that the organizers are unknown to the party's leadership and the action lacks the approval and backing of the party. You're currently listening to the World News right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We'll take a very short break. When we return, more news, and obviously we head into our banter segment. Do kindly stay with us.
Welcome back. You're still listening to the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. The Northern Obedient Youth Assembly, NOYA, has accused the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, of sabotaging Nigeria's democracy by turning its internal processes into a bribe-fueled racket designed to favor political elites. In a statement issued by its coordinator, Abdullahi Suleiman, the group said INEC's practice of publishing amended list of candidates pursuant to court order on its website has become a tool of systemic manipulation and not transparency. Suleiman alleged that the electoral body no longer acts as a neutral umpire, but has been compromised by deep-seated political interference and internal corruption. He noted that lawfully nominated candidates are either omitted or replaced on party lists in violation of internal party democracy, only to be reinstated later by court rulings. He argued that these incidents were not mere administrative errors, but part of a calculated scheme to frustrate certain candidates through legal hurdles.
Meanwhile, the former vice president and the 2023 PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar has said he feels vindicated for refusing to select the minister of the FCT Wike as his running mate during the 2023 presidential elections. Reacting to Wike's latest remarks, Atiku accused the former Rivers State governor of working against the People's Democratic Party in the last election after losing the presidential primary and failing to secure the vice presidential ticket. Speaking through his media aide, Paul Ibe, Atiku disclosed to correspondents on Tuesday night that Wike has no moral ground to talk about him. During his monthly media parley on Monday, Wike had criticized Atiku's frequent movement across political parties since 1999. The minister, who also mocked Atiku for defecting from the PDP to the African Democratic Congress ahead of the 2027 elections, disclosed, and I quote, "If I were his son, I would have counseled him against jumping from one party to another. He is only pushing for a coalition because he knows he cannot secure the PDP presidential ticket." However, Atiku's camp fired back, insisting that Wike's alliance with the ruling APC during the 2023 polls sabotaged the PDP's chances and confirmed that the former vice president made the right decision by not choosing him as a running mate. Now, Chama Innocent, it is not surprising to expect that some residents in Plateau State will call out the government, stating that there should be a state of emergency declared in Plateau following the consistent killings in the state. You recall that on two different occasions before that dastardly act in Benue, which felicitated the president's visit, you do know that about almost 200 persons, or even more than in Plateau State, were recorded to have been killed.
Many of them are still in hospital.
A lot of them died. A couple of them have displaced from their homes. That the governor of the state, Moftwang, went there and cried and apologized to them and told them they had failed them. I recall he attended a series of interviews where he talked about the fact that certain elements not of Nigerian origin have pervaded their territory and invading their communities with cattle, and that if you hear them speak, they're obviously foreigners and they're the ones displacing the original settlers. He also talked about the fact that despite the president asking him to mediate, considering they termed it as a farmer-herder clash, that they had really tried their best to ensure that peace is restored. The other time as well, some vigilante groups that were set up by residents in Plateau State were chased out, some of them even killed, by these individuals while they were trying to guard the forest where they know these persons hide. So there have been consistent killings. You also recognize the other one that took place in Riom, where some persons, while they were in their homes very early in the morning, were killed. We spoke with one of the youth leaders. There have been consistent attacks, and they have complained that it is predominantly the Christian settlement that are experiencing these dastardly acts. The same thing is also happening in Benue State. Now, a couple of Nigerians believe that, especially those who are critically supporting the administration, considering, according to them, the efforts the administration is putting in place, that it is a political sabotage by some persons in the north who supposedly want to drag the president, and then they give him conditions. But people have died, and one would have expected that indeed in Benue and Plateau a state of emergency would have been declared. With how sporadic they declared a state of emergency in Rivers, where people did not die, where there was no mutiny, no anarchy, no chaos, there was no humanitarian crisis that would have enraged the government in charge to say we need to declare a state of emergency. So the question is, what is the priority there?
You know, when you ask me what is the priority of this present government, if I'm to answer as a journalist, the answer will be different from if I'm to answer as a Nigerian, because you and I, we follow where the shoe, we know where it pinches. But when supporters of the president, supporters of this current administration and spokespersons for the president come out to say, oh, the opposition is politicizing insecurity, are they saying that there are some people in the opposition who are sponsoring this insecurity? Or are they saying that the opposition are blowing it out of proportion? Because we really need to understand where they are coming from. Remember when the NSA, it's come out like twice or three times to tell us that, oh, insecurity is not as bad as it used to be under Buhari. It's not as bad as it used to be under Jonathan. It's just many Nigerians do not appreciate this current administration. But will you tell that to people in Agatu in Benue State? Will you tell that to the people of Plateau? Will you tell that to the people of Ehamufu in Enugu? Will you tell that to the people of Bayelsa who came out to protest recently about headsmen attack? Right? So when we look at all of these situations, you realize that many times when they say it's been politicized, the opposition are just happy on it too much, they are deflecting from the main situation. Because at the end of the day, they're up there, we are down here, we are seeing what is going on, we are experiencing it on a daily basis. When over 200 people were killed, and many of them are still in hospital right now, yes, the governor went, he begged, he said, oh, we have failed you. That's not what the people need. What is we'll come out, we hear kinetic and non-kinetic approaches to insecurity. Yesterday, we talked about Bello Turji surrendering. Okay, now that he has surrendered, what about others? What
insecurity is a cleric in charge who said that it took them a couple of days and months for this negotiation and peace process, and he also disclosed that there are other groups, there are other fighters who refused the peace process. So even if Bello Turji had actually dropped his weapons and whatever, they still need to think the other groups that have refused to embrace a peace measure. That is another struggle that the government of the day needs to adhere with. And that is the reason why the cry is there. You have been able to usurp Bello Turji. You've been able to disarm him through peaceful negotiation. You went to seek them. They said the terrain is terrible. It's rough. They had to pass through muddy water. For months, there were about almost 10 or 20 Islamic clerics that were going back and forth with the negotiation and the presence of the federal government assisted by the military, and there are other groups who refuse to drop their arms. So how will the government deal with those ones after that of Bello Turji?
You know the reason why there are so many groups in the first place? Because insecurity was allowed to fester. And you know, there's this thing about when you see a booming industry, everybody wants to join because it's like, oh, this is the latest, this is the new oil.
Exactly.
People want to join. People they want to join. They want to become kidnappers. They want to become bandits because they are getting that thing that the government cannot give them. They are getting it from there. They are seeing money. They are posting on social media, and nobody is coming to carry them.
On TikTok,
they're posting guns. They're posting ransom money. They are posting their victims, they're posting on social media. You know, it's now like a booming industry, and that's the reason why you have so many people who are involved in this. And they believe that, many of them may believe that, oh, if they surrender, they will lose the advantages they've been getting from this criminal lifestyle.
It's that lifestyle, it gives a sense of power drunkenness. They get high from it. You see people begging,
the weapons, the money.
People are afraid. People cannot go up. You're literally, people at your mercy. There's a godlike feeling that you're
having people's lives in your hands.
It's a terrible experience, to be honest with you. And I hope that the government understands that, in as much as the approach with the Islamic clerics to see how they can disarm Bello Turji, they need to deal with other factions. Let's move on right now to the political scene. Obviously, it's a political scene. We'll continue to talk about that. The Labour Party staged a protest today. They marched on to INEC's office. They're saying INEC should recognize the Constitution. Now, the Julius Abure faction, well, based on INEC, they have not decided yet about his chairmanship position. They are quiet about that. But they did not recognize all the members in the just concluded by-elections from the Julius Abure faction. And you know, by August 16, all of that processing is supposed to take place. So obviously, these individuals under Julius Abure are supposedly suspended or displaced, as the say may go. So in other words, officially, there is no official member from Labour Party that represents in these by-elections. Now, let's look at this. The Nadu Usman Committee has come out to say, we do not recognize these persons. We don't know who they are. We distance ourselves, we dissociate ourselves from these persons who went to the INEC headquarters to protest. We don't recognize them. It's not sanctioned. So in other words, we're seeing an unwritten chairmanship leadership leadership taken over by Nenad Usman, although INEC has not come out officially to say that, okay, you guys, we recognize Nenad Usman, but they have also sort of placed Julius Abure under suspension by not recognizing persons under his leadership. So again, are we saying the Labour Party is in a complete confused state at the moment?
They really are, Esther. They are in a really confused state. They are not only confused, they are factionalized, broken all the way down the middle. There is no unity, and if they want to go into the 2027 elections like this, they will not stand a chance at all. And if the party continues to be factionalized like this, even if PeterObi does not get the ADC ticket, he comes back to the Labour Party, he may not even go anywhere with the current Labour Party leadership we're seeing right now. We all know PeterObi and Governor Alex Otti, who's only Labour Party governor, support the Nenad Usman caretaker committee. If Julius Abure really cares about the party, they should have a sit down. Whatever happened with Dati Baba Ahmed that said he was trying to broker peace between both factions, and that's why he had a meeting with he joined a meeting with the Abure faction.
Under the leadership of Julius Abure. And you know that Nenad Usman and Julius Abure, at this point in time, that there is a gap in terms of recognized leadership. So if Julius Abure continues to have that particular hold on that chairmancy position, and the Nenad Usman committee say we don't officially recognize you, they're in kaput. That particular position is in a fractured state, and I don't know why INEC is taking time to do that. Which brings us to the situation in ADC, where INEC has declined to recognize the ADC's David Mark led committee. Choma, there are conspiracy theories flying. The Labour Party, PeterObi belongs to that party. He says he's still part of the party, and the ADC, PeterObi, is part of the coalition, and right now there is already a leadership problem in the ADC. There's a leadership problem in the Labour Party, which in a way illegitimizes that particular leadership position if they intend to place members in certain positions to vie for electoral posts or to vie for any electoral position whatsoever. If INEC has refused to recognize you officially, any member you decide to bring out will not be duly recognized, and you're out of it completely. So you will not be fielded. So if INEC is not recognizing David Mark, and INEC says the only person for now that they recognize is Ralph Umusu, and the Saad man, you remember the man that came and said he is now in charge of the Labour Party, then what happens with that of David Mark? What happens to the leadership of David Mark? Chief Ralph Umusu decided to step down. And all the other leadership in that, along with Chief Ralph Umusu, stepped down for David Mark. But Chama, there could be a clause. Ralph also supports the David Mark leadership, obviously. And based on the constitution and based on what INEC determines, there needs to be a convention held where a leader will be chosen, recognized. INEC will be given time to 21 days awareness for them to be part of that convention. Remember that's the problem with this Julius Abure now, where INEC was not part of the National Working Committee and the convention that was done at returned Julius Abure. Exactly. So INEC chairman was not invited. That's why INEC did not recognize that particular convention. The same thing needs to happen within the ADC. A convention needs to be done. INEC needs to be given pre-notice. All right, and that is when whoever emerges will be officially declared. So Chivra Nwosu's stepping down and saying accommodating the David Mark leadership does not literally legitimize that leadership, and here is a problem. PeterObi is part of this coalition. If something is not done as soon as possible, if there's no agreement within the ADC to actually form a convention or hold a proper National Working Committee meeting, and then it heads on to the convention, are we going to experience this vacuum? Because INEC is not recognizing David Mark. Anything that comes out from the David Mark leadership is officially not recognized. So are we going to say that there is a porosity in Labour Party, there is a vacuum in the ADC as well, and PeterObi is supposedly in limbo?
Yes, he's one recurring factor in both parties. But here's what I'll say. Wow. If the ADC, they know what they have to do at this moment. Convene that convention and then choose your leaders. Let this be legitimized by INEC. So you can understand when INEC says, look, we cannot recognize this leadership because you've not gone through due process for us to recognize this leadership. So let them do what needs to be done. Why are they dilly-dallying? Atiku, Ralph, Arebeshola. No, I'm talking about the leaders of the ADC, Ralph Mosu and the rest of them. Let them come together, have this convention, put a date for it, have this convention, then choose, call INEC.
There's an issue. There are some sections of the ADC that don't recognize Ralph Nwosu. They don't recognize.
But
David
they recognized him before David Mark and others came in.
The Dumebi Kachuku, according to what Dumebi Kachuku said, he said that the time this session, all right, for Ralph Nwosu has actually expired. There was meant to be a convention. In fact, they took it to court, and Chief Ralph Dumebi Kachuku said that it was INEC that was meant to change or possibly give them a notice of whom they recognize, but INEC dilly-dallied. So the same INEC factor is a cause for the leadership issue after the reign of Ralph Nwosu. I don't know if you remember, because when he said the Atiku Abubakar people came to meet him and he explained the process to him. So they have not done a convention. INEC was meant to resolve this issue, being that there was a case about the leadership of the party in courts, and it was left on the table of INEC. INEC was dilly-dallying. So obviously that's what made Chief Ralph Nwosu still be the recognized leadership head. Now Atiku wanted the coalition. Obviously Ralph Nwosu said, whatever you want to do, I step down for you. But Dumebi Kachuku is saying it's not possible because your tenure is no longer there. You have stepped down. A convention has not been heard, and INEC has not disclosed who will be the leader. So my issue, the issue that a lot of people are talking about is, could this have the handwork of the reigning party, create confusion? Nothing is settled at all, and they would use INEC would extend the time, whereby when it is now time for proper registration and all whatnot, before you know time is
just
gone,
like the ADA party registration fizzled out and everything. But then this also begs the question, these people in the coalition, did they not see that all of this was happening before they chose to adopt the ADC? I mean, why are you walking into a divided house? And now it's almost as if you've caused further division within that. Why did they not just enter a party that did not have problem? Because like the Labour Party was already having leadership tussle. Of course, we were not expecting Atiku and the others to go there. Then they went to ADC that was already having the same leadership problem. They did not see any other party.
Well, maybe at the time they didn't know it was going to be something significant. Maybe if a certain person was not part of the coalition, all this razzmatazz around the whole thing may not be a prominent situation. But like I said, whatever calculation, whatever the current political party is doing, I don't know how to describe it. Some persons will say that's strategic. Some persons will say, no, you're literally using power at your disposal to strangle people and not let due process go through. But INEC needs to step up their game. INEC needs to step up their game. There's a lot of accusation on INEC's involvement in a lot of things that you consider to be undemocratic, and they need to clear that clause in their activities and their procession with all of this situation. Make the process seamless. If it remains on your table to do what is needed, do what is needed. You can imagine what the obedient movement is saying.
That's the thing, if it remains on your table to do what is needed, the political parties also need to do what is right, so that if INEC is to have the blame, they can say we've done everything we are supposed to do. We've done everything that INEC says we are supposed to do as a political party before you put the blame. Because now it will become trading blames back and forth. INEC will say you've not done what you're supposed to do. They'll come back to INEC and say, no, we are expecting you to come and do this and that for us. It's just, it's a very naughty situation. With the Northern Obedient Youth Assembly coming out to accuse INEC of running a bribe-driven election racket. It's crazy because they're saying that INEC has become a revenue generation operation for corrupt officials within the commission who allegedly collect millions of naira in bribes to tamper with candidate lists, knowing fully well that the courts will eventually intervene.
Interesting. Well, we'll be looking into more of this during the evening rush as we have a program coming up very soon. Chima, quite interesting times. We'll be seeing more developments take up like this. And that's a wrap on the world news at 6. My name is Esther Wachuku.
My name is Chioma Innocent. Do stay tuned. The evening rush will be coming up shortly.